I think it's very important to make sure you tag along others or carry along other people who can share in your thinking as a catalyst. Because in defining new paths, in defining new roads, in thinking differently, that's where we're able to unearth new opportunities or even accelerate existing opportunities. So where I relate to the catalyst is pretty much, being indifferent in thinking and putting that into action.
Hi, I'm Tracy Lovejoy.
And I'm Shannon Lucas. We are the co-CEOs of Catalyst Constellations, which is dedicated to empowering Catalyst to create bold, powerful change in the world.
This is our podcast, Move Fast, Break Shit, Burn Out, where we speak with Catalyst executives about ways to successfully lead transformation in large organizations.
Today, I'm super excited to have with us Lenin Oyuga. He joined Mastercard in 2023 as head of the Telco Digital Partnerships MEA to lead the Telco Digital Partnerships segment. In this role, he's responsible for overseeing Mastercard's investments in the telco space, setting sales strategies, and engaging with C-level stakeholders to focus in creating sustainable competitive differentiation for Mastercard and its customers. Lenin is a technology strategy and business executive with a passion for leading organizations and innovations, making ever-changing technology relevant, and he likes to use his positions for jurisdiction to influence actual policies and consequently embrace much-needed change in the world. He's led multiple industry applications, and his generalization of understanding business processes has driven him to work across continents and various industries where technology is applied, including Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. It's so great to have you here, Lenin.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be on board.
And also, I should just call out, you have at least two experiences doing some really important nonprofit work. You want to throw those into your background story there?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ones I'll start with is the We Are Family Foundation, where I was involved as a global mentor. So We Are Family Foundation is based out of New York, and what it does, it picks out candidates that stand out across, different global universities and help them, get into the job space, not just by employment, but also by them building their own, companies and organizations. So in this, I got to mentor, people in Brazil, people in Africa, people in Europe, young individuals who are building businesses. And I can confidently say these are catalysts who are shaping the world in very different ways and forms. So that's one of the organizations I'm involved with. The other one was a Young Africa Leadership Initiative, which was something formed by Barack Obama in his presidency, covering East Africa and pretty much looking at nurturing young talent into the job space, coming into a job with a plan and figuring out what this plan is, so that at the end of the day, you don't just take the staircase upwards, but sometimes you can take the escalator to scale a couple of floors up. So that was pretty much my role in also that setup, something that I did for about 4 years.
Amazing. Like the impact that you've had, I couldn't let that piece go unsaid. And then as we were getting to talk, he was also like, it may be my best job so far has been as a father. So I wanted to throw that out there too.
Yes, what I usually say, my biggest career achievement is being a dad of 2 boys, 8 and 1 year, 8 months, and I believe the sense of fulfillment and purpose that brings is pretty much what fuels my engine as a catalyst in everything that I do out here.
100%. Thank you for sharing. All right, so let's jump in. Tell us how you relate to the concept of catalyst and maybe what that's meant for you in your various leadership roles.
Yeah, so I believe that a catalyst is defined by, a relentless, curious nature, and this quest for, driving a progressive or even a drastic change in seeing things that people sometimes don't even see. And what I mean by this is a catalyst is someone who's willing to be indifferent, either in the thought process, in going against the grain, and even defining a new path where there's no path. And, catalysts are always defined by, quickly learning and unlearning stuff in their different organization. And I must say, sometimes it's a very lonely place, because if you are going against the grain and everybody's going in a separate direction, you always find yourself, trying to look around, who's with me in this particular journey. That's why I think it's very important to make sure you tag along others, or carry along other people who can share in your thinking as a catalyst. Because in defining new paths, in defining new roads, in thinking differently, that's where we're able to unearth new opportunities or even accelerate existing opportunities. So where I relate with a catalyst is pretty much, being indifferent in thinking and putting that into action.
So powerful. I'm wondering that sense, the felt sense, as I heard you talk about it, about like you're going that way and everyone else is going this way. How do you
Yes.
maintain your energy when you're in systems where that's happening?
So I think as being a catalyst, you first of all, you must be very in touch with yourself, in terms of pacing yourself sometimes, because most of the times we seek perfection, but a good number of times, sometimes progress is better than perfection. But that's just one thing, and the other bit is, as long as you're a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday, that indeed in itself is progress, and it's a way to recharge your batteries. But most importantly is, you should always be ready to raise up your hand, because no man or woman is an island, and we are product of learning and being helped by others. I always say, sometimes view yourself as a company, and every company has different divisions that make it work. There's a HR, there's a commercial, there's strategy, there's technical. And just like, a catalyst out here, you must also look at yourself at, what are your strengths and what is missing in your grand scheme of things, as a board, and what do you do about it? And, those are the pockets where you get your batteries charged back, and you get to, get those points of reflection, and you're able to, be very in touch with, what you're trying to drive. Because most often than not, we can always get lost in, our quest for success, or our quest of going against the grain. If nobody's tapping us on our shoulders and telling us either you're doing a good job, or you need to pace yourself, or you need to fail fast, then we get lost in, this journey, and we're like, hamster on a treadmill, just running round and round. So you end up jogging on the spot. Yes, you've worked out, but have you covered distance? Yes, probably not. Yeah.
I love it. And yeah, that sense of having people around you who can both like celebrate the progress that you've made, but also the reminder like, hey, maybe you need to take a long weekend or go do whatever it is that recharges you is super powerful. Thanks.
Yeah, that's
For you
very
to have
true.
taken this, and I would love to continue down in this area. You have done lots of jobs where you've been catalyzing and transforming in a variety of spaces, and would love to hear one or two of the major challenges you have faced as a catalyst executive in being able to drive transformation.
So one of the biggest challenges I've faced, in being a catalyst is, at some point I was working for an organization that was going through a merger and acquisition. And prior to this, there was a lot of changes that had happened into the organization. So the team in itself were facing what we call a burnout in terms of change management, which resulted into apathy and frustration. And this at some point always lowers the employee engagement and productivity. So one of the biggest challenges I faced is, first of all, how do you still steer a ship, and make sure you recharge yourself, and everybody's looking to you for direction, and sometimes you don't even have the direction. All you have is faith and hope, that at the end of the day, all of us are going to reach the finish line. Everybody with change are worrying about their jobs and what's going to happen to them. So one of the things I struggled with in that particular period of time is how to taste, iterate, and adapt to the new change, and assure the team that this change is good, much as it's going to affect the entire organization. Now that was a challenging task, especially in Lenin as a catalyst, being able to go back and making sure that, I'm not carrying too much weight on my back to break the back itself, but I'm carrying weight and I'm constantly putting it down to make sure, I regain the strength to carry the weight back on my back to steer the team. So that was a very difficult, moment for me to kind of like be a catalyst and drive change. The other challenge I faced, as a catalyst leader is, more often than not, when you're catalyst and you're driving, such change in an organization, you always get to tend to lose yourself. And if you don't have people around you who will remind you of your value system, what you stand for, why you're actually there as a leader, kind of like gives you, a major setback. So it took me a lot of learning to understand that, I need to also tap into the people around me who will be able to first recharge me and to remind me why I'm there, to be able to, drive this particular change. So that merger and acquisition was a difficult one. Another one in the catalyst journey was when I was trying to move from a technical role into a fully commercial role. It was a very challenging journey, and I'm sure you can relate, because everybody who sees you trying to do a commercial role sees the technical bit of you and disqualifies you from the role. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn to take a lot of no's. I had to kind of like grow a thick skin and get appointed by looking at it as I have nothing to lose. The worst I will get is a no. Pick myself up and go until I get that single yes. And the moment I got a yes is the moment also the career took a drastic positive turn, because I was able to have a technical track and a commercial track and put them all into one as someone who's offering that to the market. So a lot of resilience was built in this, but it took a lot of punches. Sometimes you're dancing in the ropes, but you don't know, but you always have to get yourself back in the arena. As long as the arena is right in front of you, you get back from the ropes and you keep fighting until you get there.
I love every single one of these. I'm going to go back to the first one, because this is a deep curiosity and something that I talk about with clients and coaching a lot. So you talked about the team is burned out. How do you steer the ship when you may not even have a direction? Mm-hmm. How does one steer the ship when the organization's in the middle of transformation and no strategy has emerged yet? We know we need to stop doing what we're doing. Mm-hmm. What should we do? What best practices have you learned? How do you keep a team engaged and motivated? Like, how should they fill their time? What have you learned?
So what I've learned, in that particular journey is always remember the purpose. And I think the purpose never fades out, even when direction is being blown left and right by the wind. And constantly reminding the team that, this is why we're here and this is what we are still trying to achieve is one part. The other bit is also, working with the people and leaning on them to tell them that, at the end of the day, we have 14 mountains to climb. Let's climb one mountain at a time. We'll get to where we need to do with the changes and everything, but let's focus on, crossing one finish line at a single time before we get to the rest. And it's more of like, at the end of the day, I keep saying this, you can only join the dots backwards. And reminding the people that at the end of the day, once we get to the finish line, every step will make sense, however painful or however easy the process is. And with that, able to get the team to focus on what we can be able to do within our control. And sometimes a gravity situation is a gravity situation. So you still focus on your job. If you're to deliver sales numbers, focus on grinding on the sales numbers. If the organization changes logos tomorrow, you might get a bigger portfolio or not. And when you get it or when you don't get it, sometimes when you fail, you need to learn to fail fast and fail forward. And when you get a bigger portfolio, you need to know now when to raise your hand and get further help to see how to drive that. So that kept the light burning in the team in terms of, we have this already on our table. So let's have a very laser focused approach to this. But let's remember why we are here, because I usually believe if the why is missing, then there's no fuel in the tank to even get the car moving, much as we don't know, without a compass, whether this car is going to go straight or we're going to take the first turn that we find.
Yeah. As a leader, did the elements of, in your third challenge, you mentioned the necessary resilience of shifting tracks, or when Shannon asked you about maintaining energy, right? The need to, kind of put the backpack down. How did that at all, if at all, figure into what you would bring to your teams?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, every time I would put the backpack down and put it back up, what I essentially did was I would also lean on people. I would also have a support structure, and this is what I was referring to as a personal board of directors. So in the personal board of directors, like what I have for myself, I have my why, which is the family bit, and my dad actually sits on that personal board of directors. He thinks it's an overkill when I show him I have someone who helps me with thinking through commercial and strategy. I have someone who helps me think through numbers. I have someone who helps me think through people and purpose and also branding. So at the end of the day, every time I put my backpack down, my batteries are empty, and I lean on this team to also help me think through. And sometimes it's perspective, sometimes it's challenge, sometimes it's literally refilling your batteries with encouragement and reminding you why you are in that particular seat, why you're actually leading this particular team. And that sometimes is enough to take me back to carry the backpack and tell the entire team that, let's keep moving. We have energy to cover, the next 1,000 miles or something like that. So that really helped me to, come back and still carry the backpack, however heavy it got through that particular journey and change.
I love all of this so much. The purpose on the corporate team and personal level is so energy giving and can be a standalone North Star. Also, we can't do it alone in any of those contexts. And then having so the personal board of directors there, but also like the intentional pause, coming back to the intentional pause. It's an amazing triumvirate. Going back to the challenges when you were in the organization, like I love the skills and the tools that you were able to bring to the table. If we gave you a magic wand, are there things that you would have loved to have had sort of more organizational support for you as a Catalyst leader to navigate some of those tougher times?
Yes, absolutely. Especially, when you're going through the merger and acquisitions, I would have loved to have, more autonomy in terms of decision making on where we're going. I think it will have given me a better compass in telling the team, much as we can't see the North Star, but at least it's in this direction. So that is something I would have loved. I would have loved the team to get exposure in terms of, if the organization had actually gone through a couple of mergers and acquisitions, for them to learn how it was done before, rather than, just be, greenfield and facing it for the first time. I would have loved for that to happen. I would have also have loved for the teams and the people to, get, the sense of encouragement all the way through to the corporate, much as, we are doing it as a regional leadership team. Sometimes, connecting with the purpose, with the tone and everything goes all the way to the top. And every time they get, in touch or even see the conversation happening, from the top of the mountain, it becomes very relatable, because you can see a fellow human being like you seated right at the top of the mountain, telling you that this is challenging, but we're going to get there. Or, you're walking up to me, I'm seated right at the top of the mountain, so let's just keep going. Those will have pretty much, positively driven myself and team to action, and maybe I will have made the backpack a little bit lighter if every time I would try to lift it, because someone else will be lifting it with me. But I think sometimes it's the crown is heaviest for the one who wears it. So sometimes leadership comes with that sense of responsibility and calling. So the backpack, as heavy as it is, you are the leader, you are in the arena, carry that backpack.
I love that. The autonomy, which is such a catch-22 for Catalyst, will be handed big projects like an M&A or some kind of change initiative, and they're like, go do it, go sort it out. And then you find the hidden guardrails that nobody told you at the beginning, which can be really tough to navigate. What I loved too, the ask sort of for like, don't make us learn this on our own the first time. Like clearly someone else has done this and we're game for the challenge. I'm going to go back to something you said earlier too. The role of a catalyst is about learning and unlearning, which is true in an M&A particularly because there's lots of cultural nuances that are going to go on there. And then the final piece is that encouragement, which we know, like, the catalyst will see the first top of the foothill and think it's the mountaintop and think we can never do it. And then we'll get there and we'll have crushed it only to see what we think is the next big peak. And so taking that moment to be like, you're at the top where you didn't think you could get, and let's celebrate before we go conquer the next mountain. I'm wondering if you have any tactical advice for that middle one though, because we don't always stop. I haven't anyway, always stopped and said, is there anyone in the organization or in my network who can come in on this specific business challenge that just has the learned experience? I don't mean like technical know-how necessarily, but like how to navigate this kind of a systems change. How would you think about asking for that?
I think you know, in clarifying an ask like that, first of all is to simplify the problem. And I think where catalysts come in really, really handy is, you know, we go against the grain, we think indifferent, and in that same strength, we can actually simplify the problem statement into what we're trying to achieve or pretty much get to. And, you know, breaking it down into chunks makes it easy to consume. And, you know, having, you know, smaller chunks makes it easier to define and know actually what challenge or problem we're dealing with. Perhaps in an M&A situation, maybe documentation could be a challenge. Maybe learning from a different, you know, history of the M&A could be another challenge that we need help. Perhaps the teams just need to be trained on, you know, what happens when an organization changes logo and everything and structure from one point to another. And, you know, simplifying and making the problem statement, for lack of a better term, more edible, makes it easier to raise the hand and say, I need help in these 4 areas. And as a catalyst, you know, leaning on people to even achieve this really, really helps, because we define the problems, we make it simpler, but now looking across the teams, we'd find people who will be easily clutch onto the different problems, so perhaps to even simplify them further, or even, you know, help us define it further in terms of clarifying the asks we're trying to take upwards. And with that, you know, we become better at seeking help in what we're trying to achieve in a very complex or matrix situation that we might be sitting on as catalyst leaders.
I think that's really smart, and catalysts aren't always good at, we'll see the big picture, we'll have an intuitive sense, and maybe we can even articulate the vision of what that M&A might look like, but breaking down those component parts about how we're going to get there, and then being like, do we have the capacity or you know, skill set internally, and then having the ability to clearly ask is super helpful and helps us bring a bunch of people along on the journey with us.
Yeah, that's true.
In this conversation, we're talking about identifying people, right, that either support us in our personal journey or supporting a particular project or change that we're driving toward. I'm wondering if identifying other catalysts has ever been useful to you, if it's even something that you kind of thought about as you were creating change in an organizational environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see, in identifying other catalysts, you actually find something that's very relatable. Much as the journey starts with you, because when you're getting people to lean in, first of all, you must be very honest with yourself on first of all, what you can and what you cannot do, which is I would say it's a very painful journey sometimes, because, you know, telling yourself that I'm good at this, but I suck at, you know, this other thing is in front of a mirror. Sometimes you're punching on your very own ego or very own pride in, you know, you're very good at this. But at the end of the day, you must be very honest with yourself. And I'll speak for my case. When I was trying to move from, you know, a very technical role to a commercial role, I became very self-aware that, you know, some of the skills that I needed to learn were, you know, how to work with people, how to be led, and also how to lead when I get to that particular point, and, you know, pretty much acquire those soft skills. And also I had to unlearn, you know, how I even present stuff and how I tell my story, because as a catalyst, you also, you know, it's in the storytelling that you're able to, first of all, get people to understand what you're trying to do, and second of all, get, you know, people to relate to what you're trying to achieve. So I had to also unlearn and learn a lot of things in the process. And yes, identifying fellow catalysts really, really helped, because you're able to see someone who's, first of all, been there, done that, or two, is a catalyst in a very different domain than you are in and is doing it very, very well. So you look at it as a muscle you're able to gain in the gym. Maybe you're very good at cardio, but you're not very good at the weight lifting or the deadlifts. So this person's very good at the deadlifts, might learn a couple of things from you who's very good at cardio, and you have this cross-pollination from a different catalyst, and you end up gaining two skills or one extra skill that you didn't have.
And so I love hearing, it sounds like finding them within that organizational context is incredibly helpful for mapping the system, bouncing the skills. On a personal side, I'm curious, are any of your board of directors catalysts?
Oh, yes.
With intention or by accident?
I would say both.
Yeah.
Some intention, some by accident, because I was looking to just gain a particular skill, only to find that I've actually met a different catalyst. I have 8 of them in my personal board of directors. 3 are straight catalysts, and 2 actually were by accident, because I was going to learn a particular skill, only to realize that they're linchpins in their very domain, and their journeys are very relatable to my journey, if you take them a couple of years back. So it was a very good coincidence in assembling that what I call a super team.
It sounds like a super team. And so on the personal side, when someone's not inside your system, what is the value for you in having like-minded catalysts?
So just come again?
So, we were talking just now about identifying your catalyst within the system that you're creating change, but you have a set of folks in your board of directors that are catalytic. So I'm curious, what is the value of having catalysts, that's not just in the system, but for you personally?
So personally, what it gives me is, you see, one of the quest for always becoming a better version of yourself is an ongoing journey that never ends, because learning is always a constant process. And one of the things that I keep telling myself is, as long as I'm able to learn something new every day, and every day presents a whole new set of challenges as you go through your career, personal life, training, anything you're able to do. And having this catalyst pretty much in the personal board of directors gives me the privilege of, bouncing ideas, challenges, and opportunities in equal measure as I navigate through my career, my personal life, and, Lenin as himself, as he's just trying to, be this, better catalyst out there in this particular world. And at the end of the day, I've gained so much skill in just engaging this catalyst in my personal board of directors. And some of these skills or lessons, you don't even get them in an MBA school, because they're life lessons based on experiences and even the challenges and opportunities that you get out here. So for me, that has been the biggest takeaway of having them on board, and having this chance to be able to sound stuff of them, and getting to a point whereby now I'm also playing the card forward from the lessons I've learned over the past decade of having this team with me.
That's amazing. Thank you.
It is amazing. And again, there's another thread. I just have to say, I'm really enjoying this conversation, Lenin, and you're so sharp and you're so fast and you're connecting all these dots. It's amazing. You had these were not your words earlier, but you've gone back to, especially when you transition from the technical to the commercial side, implicit in what you're saying is this openness to an experimentation mindset. Right? Yes. Like you stepped into something that even you, and I can relate because we talked about it, I did something similar. You're like, I don't know if I can do this. This is outside my skill set. And you've talked a couple times about the journey is the personal growth journey. That is kind of its own purpose that I hear in your story. And yet there's some taking risks with that. So I just have a follow-up question before the next question. How does your board help you navigate the risk taking? Because I can imagine if you had no catalysts, they'd be like, don't leave your technical career and go do commercial. That's a crazy idea. So how do they support you in those ones that are the rational risks to take?
Yeah, so the personal board helped me identify 2 things: my spikes and my barriers. So my spikes are pretty much my strengths as a catalyst. I'm very curious. I latch on things pretty fast. Of course, I'm technically very, very sound, and that's pretty much my area of excellence. But the barriers that I have is in being a very techie, having a very geeky kind of like mindset, you tend to be very analytical, which means it can be a detractor in, you know, making quick decisions, because you want a perfect situation before you're able to make a decision. But in leadership, sometimes you're called to make decisions on the fly. Yeah. So where the personal board of directors came in really, really handy is sometimes to know when to take a calculated risk, sometimes to know when to jump off the plane and, you know, try to pull the parachute with the hope that it's gonna pop up. And if it doesn't, we make sure we have a good crash landing. Yeah. And with that, I would say I had a fairly balanced, you know, risk appetite when depending on the situation. And we got to a point whereby we would look at the opportunity vis-a-vis the risk that was at hand. And the opportunity, and maybe I can use one example, the opportunity from moving from technical to commercial is, one, I would be able to have this blended skill of navigating conversations all the way from, you know, the technical side to the commercial side where I deal with people. And what this would give me as leverage in an organization is I can be able to lead strategy in, you know, any industry that has technology. So that was the opportunity that lies at hand. The risk was, you know, you land into a commercial role and you nosedive immediately because you're not able to transition into that change. And what do we do with, you know, that challenge of nosediving when you're able to get into this fantastic opportunity is you start to learn and unlearn, you know, a couple of skills. Like I wasn't very good at presentation in terms of now, you know, outward presentation. I would do a very technical presentation with my slide, very full of, you know, bullet points, you know, maps and everything. So I had to move from that to, you know, having an image on a PPT and telling a story to keep an audience focused to me. Now that took a lot of practice. That also took a lot of failure. And one of the biggest things I had to learn is to embrace failure and to fail first, because failure, just like an opportunity, gives you a chance to, you know, learn something differently, gives you a chance to appreciate the experience. And at the end of the day, even in this current role, I get failure and I look at it very differently. You know, back in the day, you would get failure, you know, being the catalyst, the take, you want the perfect finish of things, you beat yourself up. By the time you wake up to, you know, pick that backpack and move, you know, time has flown, the opportunity has gone, and perhaps your golden window to scale is no longer there, and someone else has taken the cheese.
Totally. I love your connection. Like there's a lot of people that talk about the fail fast, but it's the fail fast and learn, and the appreciation for the opportunity that you had. There were so many amazing nuggets in there, but I do want to get just, you know, if you had one piece of advice for a junior catalyst coming up, I mean, you had storytelling, you had risk taking, you had people supporting you. Like, what is the one thing that you would tell maybe yourself 10 or 15 years ago even?
So what I'll tell myself, say 10, 15 years ago back is there's no perfect time. Just do it now. Don't wait for a perfect time to pretty much go against the grain or do something different. The other bit I will do is don't fear failure. You know, be bold. But most importantly, we only rise by lifting others. So carry others along in your journey, because in carrying others along, you learn so much, because life is full of lessons. And when you get to the mountaintop, play the card forward. That's what I'll tell myself back then.
Amazing.
I want to go back to being 20 and hear that advice right now, Lenin. Thank you. All right, as we wrap up today, we'd love to hear about your favorite catalyst, past or present, who inspires you. Why do they stand out?
So my favorite catalyst is the former PepsiCo CEO. She's called Indra Nooyi. Yeah, I admire and love that CEO, and I've been following her journey ever since, you know, early days of my career. And the reason I like Indra Nooyi is she did it her way in becoming a CEO, and she looked at, you know, was it 4 or 5 things, if I can remember them? I think competency was one of them, courage and confidence was another. Communication was very, very key. How you're able to communicate both vertically and laterally. Consistency is everything, because every new skill you gain, every new attribute you want to get to, the moment you become consistent, it becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, it becomes part of your value system, and you'll always be identified by that. And, you know, lastly, compass is everything in all you do. So, I mean, that is what I will sum up that from Indra Nooyi's leadership. And that's why she tops the list as my favorite catalyst.
Love it.
I have goosebumps, mic drop, back to purpose, like all of the things, Lenin. That was amazing.
Completely. I am hoping this is the first of many conversations to come, Lenin.
100%.
I love this. Yeah.
Shout out to Sneha, like big love Sneha for this introduction. This was amazing. Yeah, hopefully the audience can feel, thank you so much for the conversation, Lenin.
Yes.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed and appreciated this. And hopefully I'll be back soon because I'd love to engage with you guys again. You're doing an amazing job out here.
Thank you. And thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to learn more about how to accelerate positive change, go to our website at www.catalystconstellations.com.
Be sure to check out our book, Move Fast, Break Shit, Burn Out. And if you have other catalysts in your life, hit the share button and send a link their way.